The Oracle of Luna is a podcast with me, Bridget Engels, as your host. Here we have conversations with real live, present-day goddesses who are actively and courageously doing their magical work in the world. Each episode is a bewitching journey with relevant discussions on topics such as Wiccan pagan spirituality, writing, culture, magical practices, art, ritual, and the craft in its many forms. Merry meet! Welcome to another episode of the Oracle of Luna podcast. I'm Bridget Engels, your host, and today I'm excited to chat with Jen Sankey. Jen is an author, tarot deck creator, tarot reader, professional witch, and speaker. She blends tarot, lunar magic, and spiritual guidance to create transformative tools. Her published works include the award-winning Stardust Wanderer Tarot, Enchanted Forest Felines Tarot, and Manifesting with the Moon, A Guide to Lunar Magic by Llewellyn Worldwide, releasing in February. Jen shares her knowledge through online events, workshops, and online platforms, inspiring others to embrace their intuition and magical potential. Welcome, Jen.
Hi, how's it going?
Good. How are you doing? How's your day going?
Oh, it's going pretty well, so I'll take it. Nothing too crazy, so I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm so happy you're here too. We've got a lot to unpack here. Are you ready to get rolling?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Well, as I usually start my show, I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about how your spiritual journey unfolded and with witchcraft and magic, and what did that look like for you?
Okay, so I'm going to do like the abbreviated version. So basically, it starts out with Jen as a little kid wandering around the woods, making potions with sticks and, rocks and all of those things, as I know probably many of us did. I spent a lot of time alone as a kid. So really it was I was just out in nature a lot. And then, I love any sort of fantasy movies, any type of anything that had fairies involved or anything like that. I was there. So as I started watching different things, I noticed like, oh, okay, there's what are these witches about? What are these fairy people about? So right away, I was just completely drawn to all of those things. As I got a little bit older, I was probably like 12 years old, and that's when I got my first tarot deck. And I had seen like in the movies a couple things. I'm like, oh, what are these cards? And they tell you stuff like, what is this? So I saved up my babysitting money. And fun fact that my the boy that I was interested in at the time, who is now my husband, actually brought, we went to the store together and we had gotten my first pack of tarot cards. Before that, even kind of right after that, the internet wasn't a thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's only been a few years, but still. I went to the library, and at the library, there was literally like 3 metaphysical books. And so to even check them out, it was like 6-month wait. So anytime I was able to grab one, I did, and I would write it all in a notebook. Don't tell them I did that. And don't tell. And one of them happened to just kind of be a Wicca book. There was a moon book, and I don't remember what the other one was, but I just kind of really was like, this is what I like. I love this. Like, this is just, it resonated with me at the time. I didn't know what that word, but, and as I just, went through my teenage years, I just started kind of picking up little bits here and there and finding people here and there that, would dive into these type of things and just learning as much as I could. And, it all just kind of snowballed to where I am now.
So where did you grow up? I'm just curious. Back east or West Coast?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I kind of went a little bit of everywhere.
Mm,
My parents, they weren't the most stellar parents, so they weren't very stable. So we were just kind of floated around everywhere. I lived in Long Island, in New
mm.
York.
Okay.
And we lived a little bit in Georgia. We lived a little bit in Arizona, and a little bit in Florida, and then we kind of ended up back in New York. So it was kind of a little bit of everywhere. And
Yeah.
yeah, and what was really interesting too is that as like we were super poor, so as a super poor kid, like the churches all around would always offer to like bring you, if you went to their like church thing, then they would feed you. So of course, as a kid, that was like my main focus was to get food.
Mm.
So, but in hindsight, I went to like every denomination church you can think of. So that kind of was a different take on what I was interested in, and learning about that, even though I was really there to get
Yeah, you
food.
had other motivations.
I did have a reason, but it was just very interesting to me. And it really kind of shaped my practice as well. And even though it was very chaotic, I really liked, now looking back at it, that experience of kind of getting to see these little snippets of all these different religions that were organized, just to kind of see that common thread of them, what I liked, what I didn't like, all of that. So it really was very interesting. So yeah, and then I was in Long Island, and then moved up to upstate New York a
Okay.
little bit later. Yeah.
Well, I think all those experiences growing up are super important and they influence us as adults and as witches later in life. And noting that you had sort of you grew up in various spots, West Coast and East Coast, and I think that makes you more independent and resilient, don't you?
Yeah, because you had to be. And, it's one of those things like everyone, oh, I'm so sorry, your childhood, it was, not so great. And it wasn't great. And there was parts that I wish I didn't have to deal with. But now as an adult in a safe space, I could be like, you know what? I really did learn how to, deal with any situation on the fly. And
Mm.
I could, anything that goes on, I could deal with it. And as I graduated high school early when I was 16, and I went right into nursing school. So
Mm.
I'm also a nurse,
Yeah.
and I kind of feel like that also kind of life experience helped with that, because I'm also the oldest child, so I was always taking care of everybody. And it's just to be a healer and a helper and that sort of thing, which I think as at all of us that are witches or pagans or anything, we're all healers most of the time, and we're always here to help. Even as a tarot reader, you're there to help people. So I it's in hindsight, it's interesting to see how that arc played out.
Yes, absolutely. And that leads me to my next question. When did you realize that tarot was a part of your witchy journey?
The minute I saw a tarot deck in a movie, I was like,
Oh, yeah.
oh
Which
yes.
deck? I'm curious.
I was like, well, I don't know what this is, but I want to be a part of it. So that was probably it. And when I first got my deck, it was just a plain Rider-Waite-Smith with a little white book. So
Yeah.
I didn't really have a lot to go on. And I think for most of us back before internet, we just kind of winged it. Like we just kind of, figured it out on our own. So I
Yeah.
really think that's a really gives us a different perspective.
Yes, absolutely. I was just talking with another guest, Jessamine Angelica, about being a Gen Xer and how we had to really be so self-disciplined before the internet and go to
Yeah, because it
metaphysical
wasn't in our
stores
fate.
and figure it out and find out and seek and find.
Yeah, because it wasn't right in front of you, like, the witches now, they don't realize how easy they have it. Like, like I said, I had 3 books I had to like copy down because I knew I wasn't going to see him again for another 6 months.
Right. So when did you become interested in lunar magic?
It just kind of evolved as everything went on, and the more I learned. And like I mentioned, one of the books that I had access to was a moon book. And it's just something I've always been drawn to. And as I started really learning and paying attention to the moon and the phases, realizing that there were phases,
Yeah.
I'm a big journaler, I write, obviously. So I would kind of take notes and see what was going on. And then I just started recognizing that there were patterns to all of these things. So once I, was able to get more access to other books and other people who did this type of, lunar work, I was like, hold on, this is me. This is what I need to be doing.
Mhm.
And that's just kind of how it evolved.
Were you in a coven or circle or anything at that time or?
No, I've never actually been in like a physical coven. I wish I was, but I have four boys. I had my first son when I was 17. So between, working and raising a child as a teen,
Yeah.
I didn't really have much time for those things. I
Yeah.
mean, my now husband, obviously he was there, but he knows a little bit, but I did do some stuff online. And I actually winded up being in charge of a couple of groups and helping out and teaching. And that's kind of where my teaching stuff started,
Nice.
was being involved in these groups.
Mhm.
So I probably, I did a lot of like online stuff
Yeah.
once that really became a thing.
So tell us a little bit about your new book coming out February 8th, Manifesting by the Moon, A Guide to Lunar Magic. And what inspired you to write it? And how does the reader work with your book?
So for me, just through my teaching and all of that, a lot of people would just say, obviously we know the moon's there, right? We all know it's out there. And knowing that you can actually harness the energy, harness the phases, people just didn't understand that and they didn't
Yeah.
know where to start with it. And you do start looking now on different things and it's so overwhelming. And I just wanted to really bring in like the basic framework. Like you can pick up this book and start working with the moon if you've never done it before, if you've never done spells or rituals or any of these things. And to tie in the manifesting part, a lot of what we do when we're doing spell work is we're trying to bring stuff in. I mean, even if we're trying to banish something, I mean, you can manifest to get things negative away from you. You
Yeah.
can use it any way that you want. So I wanted to really be able to show people that they can do it, to learn how to trust their intuition, to work with it because it's a muscle, so we have to get that working, and to trust yourself, and then use it as like a lunar map to bring in what you want in your life and to really just show you that, you don't need all these other things. You can do this on your own.
hmm And I love this book because it reframes your thinking to incorporate mind, body, spirit self to
Yeah.
manifest. So, do you
Mm-hmm.
want to talk a little bit about the structure of your book? Because you've got part one, part two, part three, and part two is kind of like a workbook with each moon phase, with the lunar
Mm-hmm.
spirit, lunar mind, lunar body. And then you have in each chapter, in each phase, you have lunar teas and meditations and tarot spreads, exercises and sigils. And I just love the formatted out. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's really just how my brain works and how
Yeah,
I know I
I
can
love
get things done and put it in, these sections that you don't have to go back and forth switching around.
Yeah.
You're on the new moon. This is what you do the new moon because that's
Mhm.
where I get lost. I take side quests all day long. So anything you can do to make that easier for anybody else, that it makes me happy. And so for part one is really the preparation, right? We're going to
Right.
talk about, you know, what lunar spirit or mind and body are, working with deity, crystals and herbs and tarot and all of those things to just kind of give you that introduction
Yeah.
and just so that you can work with that and start really using it. And for lunar spirit, I really like taking like kind of like the whole approach, like your whole, your lunar spirit. That's your awareness, your mindfulness, intuition. And then you have
Your
your lunar.
anima, right?
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
through anima.
Exactly. And I actually had used that word and they made me change it. And I'm like, oh, but that's the word. So, with Lunar Mind, and that's really just to kind of get your creative energy going and, gratitudes, affirmations, journaling, because with any practice that we do, gratitude is just so, so important
Yeah.
because if we can't appreciate the things that we have, we aren't open to bringing new things in.
Yeah. And we
And
kind of have to do offerings too. And I think that's left
Mhm.
out in a lot of books I notice on manifesting is that you actually have to put out, give and offer something as well.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, it's the one hand washes the other type of thing, right? Like, you and you're showing when you express gratitude, you're also showing the universe that you are ready to receive. Because if you're just constantly like, oh, I wish I had this, I wish I had that, I wish I had this,
Right.
it kind of just blocks and it mucks up your energy. But it doesn't need to be like big grandiose things. You can be like, I was happy when I woke up this morning and I'm grateful that the sun was shining through my window. It's
Right.
as simple as that. And that's something really important too that I try to really push in my book too, is that none of this needs to be super complicated. And even when you're doing all these other things, the spells or the rituals, I really want you to use what's around you, use what's outside, use everything. You don't have to go out and buy $300 herbs. I mean, some people may get to that, and that's great if you want to do that. But sometimes, it's already overwhelming when you're learning the process.
Yeah.
Like, don't complicate it, right? You
Yeah.
just
Young witch, I remember kind of getting lost in all the complex parts of a spell. And it's really, I learned later, it's so much about setting an intention and focusing.
right,
And
right. No, it's so true. It's so true. And then the last part of that is the lunar body, which that is like the physical part. That's like bringing it into your physical space. So we have the altar. That's where we do the spell work. That's where we do the rituals and the sigil. So we have that physical space, to have like a moon altar
mhm.
that will help focus your work. That if you have it in a place where you'll see it, you'll be like, oh yeah, okay, we need to do that. And it makes it a little bit easier to work it into your routine. If
Mhm.
you do your sigil and you put it as a screensaver on your phone or your computer, every time you see it, you can repeat your intention. So it's just bringing it into your everyday and making it like easy and doable and right there in your face.
Yeah.
Because if it's not in our face, we're not going to remember.
Well,
It's just
yeah.
what it is.
I know I know so much going on in our lives and how busy we are
Yeah.
and how much we spend online. I spend a lot of time outside in lunar rituals and have in the past. And I feel like the energy of each moon phase is so much more powerful, palpable, I guess is a good word, when you're outside. Can you talk a little bit about working with each moon phase and its energy for strengthening our magic? Because we don't have to just do full moon or dark moon. There's all the other ones, waning crescent, uh, you know, uh, waning,
Yeah.
and there's so many, and then lunar eclipses. There's just so many different phases. Can you talk a little bit about how we can set our intention with each lunar phase, is the energy and how it will strengthen our magic?
Yeah, absolutely. So we know, with the new moon, that's kind of our creation. That's where we're starting.
Hmm.
The new, at the new moon, like what is our intention going to be? What do we want? And is it really what we want? And that's
Oh,
one
that's a
thing.
great question.
Yeah, yeah, because a lot of times we think we want something, and after a little bit, you're like, wait a minute, this isn't what I want. And that's something we do talk about in the book as well. Like you can start at the new moon, and you can say, we'll use an example of getting a new car. And at this end, I want to be close to getting a new car or getting a new car or whatever, right? And so, but you're working through, and we're going, and you get to that first quarter moon, and that's kind of where we're going to do the first big push. So, okay, you start working on your credit, you start clearing some stuff away, and that's when we get to that first quarter moon. You want to make a big push,
Yeah.
and you want to make it a little stretchy. You won't feel a little nervous about it, because if you're nervous about any of these actions that you take during the whole moon cycle, then you're probably not going to move the dial too much. Like, we want you to be a little bit uncomfortable. I mean, panic attacks, but we want it to be stretchy, you know? So, sure. You know, and as you're moving through and you're getting to, you know, the waxing crescent, and it's nurturing these new, you know, new actions that you're taking, but then you're like, wait a minute, my car that I have actually is okay. I think if I just go ahead and just kind of fix it up a little bit, maybe I don't need to drop all this money on a new car, right? And so at this point, people are like, oh no, but my intention for the full moon or the new moon rather, was to, you know, get a new car, but now I'm changing it. Now what do I do? Now do I stop? Do I keep going? No, you just keep going and you just ride it out. And this is when you can really dive in and think about, okay, well, why did I make that decision? Why do I feel that I don't need this new car now? Why do I feel that maybe I can just go ahead and and as you're moving through, you're going to really discover things about yourself. And that's what makes it really cool too, because as you're manifesting and as you're looking to your intention and you're working towards it, you're also learning about yourself. And every single cycle you work with, you will learn something new about yourself. So for me, the full moon is all about balance. And in the book, I use the sun and the moon tarot cards, and we do some exercises with both of them because, you know, even though it is a releasing and it is, you know, what most people are doing at that point, I like to look at it as kind of a rebalance. So you have the moon, obviously, and that's your inner emotions and all of that thing all of that during through the zodiac. You know, when you're talking about your moon and sun sign and all that. But then you have the sun, and the sun is always shining the light on things, right? You know, just like I used the example before of the light shining through the window. Sometimes the moon is shining a light on some things that maybe need attention that's been kind of hiding in the shadows, and that sun is going to illuminate that a little and bring it out for you. And again, be a little uncomfortable, but that's okay because you might discover something new in that.
And also there's the other people in your life and other information adding and amplifying your decision making too.
No, absolutely. And you know, you might be going through and maybe somebody was like, really like, you need a new car, you need a new car. And as you're working through this, thinking that's what you need to manifest, you're like, wait a minute, no, I don't. What I have is fine. I just need to, you know, tune it up or something. So I think that that's really an important part of it too, and an important part of manifesting. And then you get to that dark moon, you know, or the last quarter moon, and that's kind of that last little bit, like tying up the loose ends and all of that. And you went ahead and you did a tune-up on your car. You got it detailed. It's looking great now. And
new tires.
New tires, the whole thing, auto change. She even got one of those fuzzy steel wheel covers, you know, the whole thing, right? Some new dice. But then you already, you know, you went ahead and you got your credit cleared up a little bit. You worked on some of your financials. And now, you know, you have a little extra money. So maybe you're going to have a little vacation. And you didn't expect that when you first started at the new moon. So I think that, you know, it's just being open and just, you know, like the moon ebbs and flows, just stepping into that energy and letting the universe kind of guide you, letting the moon guide you to where you really do need to go. And then you get to that dark moon phase, and that's kind of where you're integrating everything. And maybe that's when you start planning that vacation, now that you're going to drive your car that's all nice and new, spiffy there, right? So it's like sometimes things don't always turn out the way you think they are, but it's most times for the better.
Yeah. And I love in this book the tarot aspect. And do you want to talk a little bit about your tarot, how you created some tarot decks? I know we're talking mostly about your book, but I do want to mention that Jen also has some fabulous tarot decks out there.
Thank you. Yeah. So my first tarot deck is Stardust Wanderer Tarot. And that was just kind of dropped into my head one day. The Fool of the card is Mina, and she happens to be part moon goddess and part space pirate. So it's kind of her journey and discovering herself, discovering her magic. Her mom is Selene, who is the goddess of the moon. And what was really crazy about that is her name, the name Mina, just popped in my head. And basically, it was like the whole universe of Stardust Wanderer Tarot just kind of plopped into my brain. And I was like, okay, Mina. And I'm like, okay, Selene is the mom. And I'm looking, I'm doing research. And Selene had 50 daughters. And one of the daughters' names is actually Mina. And I did not know this. And I was kind of like, oh, okay, here we go. So that deck kind of just came out of that. I did self-publish it. That was an adventure in itself.
Great. No, that's so good. That goes back to our self-discipline and, resilience and determination.
Yeah, that was definitely a labor of love. That was, if you want to self-publish anything, to your research, it's not the easiest thing ever.
Yeah.
But gladly, US Games is picking that up, and they are printing a mass market edition. I think it should be out the middle of this year. So I'm really excited about that. And I just saw some of the proofs, so that's really cool. And yeah, and then I have Enchanted Forest Felines Tarot, and that is with Llewellyn. And that is my kitty deck. It's very, fantasy, like it's just very folklorish. My artist Iva is from Croatia, and she was delightful to work with. And it's just such a happy deck, but it definitely, they're cats. They're going to tell you like it is, whether you want it or not. So, so that one was a lot of fun to do, and that's out now. And then I have another one coming out, Goblin Whispers Tarot, and it's a goblin deck. And I have that. Rachel is my artist for that. We're kind of right smack in the middle of that one right now, so that probably won't be out for another year or so. It does take like 3 or 4 years sometimes for a tarot deck to be fully made, so it takes so long because people are like, "Oh yeah, really?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's not just bam out." So that's on the pipeline. I have a couple other things that I haven't announced yet, but if you follow me in all the places, you'll see it when I first announce it. But
Well, I was going to ask you, circle back to your book. How do you celebrate and honor the moon? I'm sure you have some favorite, practices, lunar practices. Can you briefly talk about how you celebrate and honor?
I mean, for me, it's pretty much a daily practice.
Okay.
I always look every day what phase it's in. I see what zodiac it's in, see what else is kind of going on in the sky. And then I have my own moon altar, and then I will, I always have a little bit of a devotional every day. And I just am mindful of whatever that energy is, try to honor it. And a lot of times if I have like certain decisions to make, like stuff like that, I'll check and see what phase it's in and that sort of thing. Everybody around me always asks me, Jen, what phase is the moon in? What phase is the moon in? And I don't always know.
And you can always go online and check.
Yes, this is true. This is true. But Google exists, but everybody seems to forget that it does. So they just ask me. And yeah, so I am always just trying to, usually the new moon, I don't always set intentions, depends on what's going on, but I always I'm doing something. I do a lot of stuff online too, and I'm always posting tarot spreads and stuff like that because again, I just want to make it accessible for everybody else as well. Like I know I'm going to do my tarot spread. I know I'm going to do my, I do a lot of candle spells on the new and full moons. So I'll do that. And sometimes I'll record them and post them just kind of like, all right, well, I'm doing it. So if you want to be included in it because you don't have time, then here it is. So that's something that I always try to include people when I can. But for my own practice too, it's really just my different devotions to, I'll work with certain goddesses, depending on where I'm at and how I'm feeling and which one's calling to me and that sort of thing.
What's your favorite moon goddess? Do you have one or? too?
Oh my gosh. So I think in my book I kind of separate, or I suggest, I should say, dark goddesses and light goddesses, just so that people can have kind of a choice to work with. So a light goddess tends to be goddesses that work from joy, from places of light. And so Selene would be a light goddess that I had mentioned before. So if you have stuff going, if you are, just maybe working on your intuition, or you're working on something a little bit lighter, then you can go ahead and call on one of those goddesses. Obviously, I've mentioned Selene a few times, so she is one of my favorites, obviously. But the dark goddesses, usually their power comes from pain. So if you're coming from, if you're working through an intention, or you're trying, working with a moon cycle, and, feelings are coming up and things are coming up, and you just need maybe a little bit more of a nudge, or maybe you have been working so much light that you've been ignoring all of that other stuff, because just like our shadow, it's a part of us. It's, again, like that full moon, that balance of the light and the dark. So sometimes the dark goddesses will call, like, you need me here because I need to push you to kind of recognize these things. And maybe it's a habit that you shouldn't be doing, that's not helpful to you, that she's going to, nudge you, like, okay, see, this is going on. Maybe you need to change that. Where maybe Selene wouldn't have enough push to it. Because when I say light goddess, dark goddess, you have a shift in your brain, right? Like, you're like light, dark. So sometimes you do need that nudge. And Circe is definitely one that I enjoy working with for dark. Because she's just kind of large and in charge, like, hey, this is going on. You need to look into this. And I'm going to keep poking you and giving you signs until you do.
All right. Wonderful. And before we ran out of time, I want to make sure we have a minute for your moon blessing. So take it away, Jen.
All right. So what we're going to do today is a moonflower visualization. And I know most of you are a little, you have done stuff like this before. So we're going to just kind of drop in and pop out. So take a moment and just get comfortable. And then just begin by taking a slow, steady breath through your nose and exhale gently through your mouth. Allow your body to settle, letting go of the day as best as you can. Now imagine yourself standing beneath the night sky. The moon is above you, calm and luminous, casting a soft silver glow across the ground. With each breath, you begin to walk forward, following a quiet, moonlit path. There's no rush, and the path knows where you are going. Ahead of you, you notice a gentle light growing brighter. As you move closer, you realize it is coming from a single flower growing in the moonlight. This is your moonflower. It may look familiar, or it may be something entirely new. There's no right or wrong here, only what feels true for you. Now take a moment to notice its shape, its color, and the way it seems to glow softly from within. Feel the energy of this flower, steady and alive, connected to the moon and to you. Now, imagine the moonflower offering you a message. You do not need to force words or images. The message may come as a feeling, a phrase, a symbol, or a quiet knowing. Allow whatever arrives to be received with openness and curiosity. Trust that this message is exactly what you need right now. And I'll give you a moment to get your message.
Jen, this is so beautiful, but we're running out of time.
Okay, so I'm almost done.
I just want to
okay.
Thank you so much for being on the show and chatting about your new wonderful book, Manifesting by the Moon, A Guide to Lunar Magic, and inspiring us to bring forth our desires and integrate our lunar magic with our mind, body, spirit. I've just really enjoyed chatting with you and could have talked for hours. So thanks again for being on the show. Blessed be.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, thanks to all our listeners for joining us today. And until next time, blessed be. Bye bye.